Welcome to our show, Purpose Meets Prosperity. I'm your host, 𝐥𝐢𝐤𝐞. I help ambitious professionals to realize their higher purpose so that they can live a more fulfilling life. I'm going to be interviewing different people who have followed their intuition down a path that others may have questioned or who thought it wouldn't work out for them. But it felt right to them. It felt like their purpose. It felt like their calling, and they kept at it, kept going towards it. And in doing so, it led to a path of prosperity. And prosperity to me is not just wealth in the terms of finances, but it's also joy. It's also love. It's abundance in all forms. So as we follow the path of purpose, that is the path to prosperity. The guests that I'm going to be interviewing, they are exhibiting that kind of life. So I want them to share some of the tips and things that kept them going down this path and also help them to turn their pain into their purpose. So the challenges, the struggles, the obstacles, they were able to allow that to propel them further towards their purpose, which led to this path of prosperity. If you enjoyed today's interview, please share it with people who you think could also benefit from watching it. And if you or someone you know would like to be a guest on our show, please fill out the application below. I hope you enjoyed today's interview. I'm your host, 𝐥𝐢𝐤𝐞, and my mission is to help ambitious professionals to realize their higher purpose so that they can live a more fulfilling life. Today we have special guest Ramona J. Smith joining us. Welcome, Ramona.
Thank you so much.
I'm going to share a little bit about Ramona so you can learn about her before we dive into our interview here. Ramona is an accomplished speaker and a renowned figure in the world of competitive public speaking. She gained widespread recognition after winning the Toastmasters International World Championship of Public Speaking in 2018. Smith's captivating speaking style and powerful storytelling abilities have earned her numerous accolades and invitations to speak at various events and conferences. Awesome. Well, I'm so excited to just dive in and find out first, how did you get started in the speaking industry? What guided you here?
Oh my goodness. I will say that I've always had a passion for being on the stage. This was when I was a young kid. I loved doing talent shows. I loved hosting. I loved being in the drama club and doing poetry. I've always loved to be the center of attention and share my talent. But for a long time, I didn't know that it was a profession. I didn't know that you could make a living from it because I didn't know any public speakers, just politicians and religious figures. Once I really knew, and we'll get into my passion story and how it really, how I knew that I knew, we'll get into that later. When I moved to Los Angeles, California, and I had this dream of sharing my gifts to speak, my sister said, well, you're a great speaker, but you got to polish it up a little bit. You need to join Toastmasters. And I said, what is that? And so I went to Toastmasters, and that kind of just opened up a new world for me as far as learning how to master the art of speaking. And then on the business side, once I won in 2018, I started to understand more about the business side of public speaking. So just what got me hooked on it was understanding that it's something that I love to do, and then knowing for sure that I can make a living from it.
Awesome. And if somebody wants to get into speaking, can you explain a little bit more about what Toastmasters is? Like, how does that help emerging speakers?
Absolutely. And I want to make it clear that Toastmasters is not the way, it's a way. You can go through Toastmasters, you can start on your own. There's Rotary, there's the National Speakers Association. I stand behind Toastmasters because this organization changed my life. And it's a nonprofit organization, so it's not going to cost you thousands and thousands of dollars to join. You can join for, I think, $120 a year. So Toastmasters is a nonprofit organization that helps people become better speakers and better leaders. It's an international organization, have thousands and thousands of clubs, hundreds of thousands of members all over the globe. So if you want to join a club in your community, you visit Toastmasters.org, go to find a club, type in your zip code, and I guarantee, unless you live in who knows Alaska, there's going to be about 20 different clubs near you. The clubs can meet weekly, they can meet bi-weekly. Every club has a different culture, but every week you're going to have a chance to be able to sharpen your public speaking skills in a safe space.
Awesome. And I love how you talk about the art of speaking, because I think people think like, oh, they're just talking, right? But what's the art of speaking? Like, what does that really mean to understand the art of speaking?
Definitely. There's definitely a difference between talking and speaking. I feel like anyone who's an artist, if I sat next to an artist and they told us both to draw a circle, My circle will probably be crooked and wiggly and all uneven. But an artist, somebody who has taken the time to study, someone who's taken the time to practice, someone who actually has a passion and a heartfelt energy towards moving their hand on the paper, and they get like a high from it, they're going to take their time. It's going to be a lot of erasing. It's going to be a lot of sketching, maybe a ruler or two, maybe some shading. To me, the difference is the energy behind it and the purpose behind it and the time that you put into it. Someone who can get on the stage and talk for 2 hours is much different than someone who can deliver an inspirational keynote that is going to transform lives. That means that you understand the basics of public speaking. You know how to organize your thoughts. You know how to structure your speech. You know how to throw in some humor, how to keep it on time, okay? And not go over or under time. And you understand that it's not just about, and that's what I had to understand. You have to understand it's not about the messenger, it's about the message.
Oh, that's so good. Yeah. And when we stop making it about us, like that's when we can really deliver, because when we're thinking about how we look, how we're being received, what will happen afterwards, will I make money from this? All of those thoughts block the art of speaking.
Definitely.
Yeah. And how do you find what to speak about? If someone decides like, oh, I love being on stage, and maybe they're a singer or performer, but they want to get into public speaking, how do you find the passion, the topic that brings that passion out of you?
Well, I think if we start from the outside, you start at what you like, start at what you're good at, start at something that you feel like you can talk about effortlessly for maybe 5 minutes straight. And it could even be what you do for a living. If you've been a teacher for 31 years, you can talk about your experiences in the classroom, share a couple of personal stories about your professional journey. Or if you have a special hobby, if you are that singer or you are that dancer, you can talk about things that you actually enjoy. And then once you continue to level up, you will start to see what sticks to different audiences and what they say, the feedback that they give you. So maybe they'll say, oh my goodness, you're so inspirational. Or, oh my goodness, you're so enlightening. Or, oh my goodness, every time you talk to me, I just want to go. I feel like I can fly. I feel like I can jump over the moon. And so the more you speak, I feel like the more you'll be able to start to narrow the topics, because you'll see what is resonating most with people. But just to start, you can start speaking about stuff that you know, stuff that you like, stuff that you actually enjoy sharing with people about, that make you smile and make you feel good.
Awesome. And what do you love speaking about?
I love speaking about inspiration and overcoming resilience and understanding how you can use adversity to your benefit and then build that strength and that character of resilience through adversity. I love being an inspirational speaker. But most people want me to talk about public speaking and how to be better, and that's great. But my passion, what I love to do, is to inspire, especially women, to be all that you feel that you can be, and understand it's probably not going to be easy, and it's probably not going to be a straight road to get there. But if you use everything you learned along the way, it'll equip you. And that's what I talked about in my speech called Still Standing. It'll equip you to fight back when life hits you, because life's going to hit you.
Chills on that. And even just watching you with the fist up, like I can feel your energy and your resilience and your power. And I would love to hear why that matters to you. What is that? Give us an example from your own life of a time when you went through adversity and you were called to be like, I am not being beaten down by this, but I'm going to continue and I'm going to thrive through this.
So the reason why I do have an energy of power is because I've overcome so much and I have fought. You remember Xena, the warrior princess?
Yeah.
She has a look about her, but she has to stay in training and she has to be prepared to fight battles because she's fought so many and was victorious most of the time. I'll share just one because I've had a lot of different hills of adversity in my life, but this is one that I'm getting more comfortable sharing with people. And that's the story of my son. And he is 11 years old. His name is Ryan. And he is now 9 years cancer free. This is my firstborn, my only child. And I was that mom. When I first became a mom. Don't touch me. Don't bring cell phones near my stomach. And then when he was born, only organic foods. And I nursed him for 13 months. And I was that mom. I was like nobody knows what to do with children, even though they probably had 4 or 5 children. I was that mom. And one day my son got sick and I'm like, okay, well, maybe, he just got sick. But then his eye started to deviate towards his nose. And it's like, no, that's something. So we took him to the emergency room And when the nurse comes in crying, you know it's bad. Like when the nurse does the hit against the wall, slide down the wall, cry, like, I mean, I can laugh about it now, but it's like, you know, it's bad news. And she was like, well, because they had ran tests and everything, because they knew it was something neurological dealing with his eye. And she was like, he has a cancerous brain tumor growing in the back of his head, the size of a small orange. Who prepares you for that? That's not in what to expect when you're expecting. That's not in any parenting manual or parenting classes, because I took them all. It's not in those parenting classes. That's something that you have to go within. And so luckily for me, I had listened prior to being a mom. I was doing a lot of personal work and personal growth and things to help my self-confidence. I listened to a lot of Wayne Dyer. I listened to a lot of, I wasn't really into Abraham Hicks. It was mostly Wayne Dyer, Tony Robbins, but I listened to a lot of those things that helped me have those deposits. So before I needed any of this stuff, it was like, it's good to know, it's good to have, wonderful, but I already had it within me. And so to get through this time, I started making
to that before this happened. So you started listening to this material and then enters the news.
Absolutely. So I was listening to this stuff maybe 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. Then when I had my son at 25, this happened when I was 27. So I was doing the pre-work before the obstacles came, before the challenges came, when I didn't necessarily really need it. I was just getting the information. I had already had these deposits of positivity and positive thinking and understanding the universe and things like that. So I feel like that's how this didn't break me, because I had made those spiritual deposits. And so when my son had to go through those 3 brain surgeries and through those 30 radiation treatments, what really got me through that was the power of positive thinking. When he was connected to all these machines, and he's 2, he was connected to all these machines, and I would hear beeping and I couldn't sleep. I would have to control my thoughts, and I would have to visualize him in his crib at home, peacefully, healthy, nothing connected to him. And I was able to do that through all the things that I had learned when I didn't necessarily think that I needed them. So that was the hardest thing that I had ever experienced. Seeing my son go through 3 brain surgeries, seeing my son lose his hair because of radiation, having to flush his PICC line, this line that was going from his arm to his heart. And this is a 2-year-old little kid. And being able to get through that and being able to hone in on that healing power and keep the positive vibes, I'm able to help other people to overcome not small things, but things that are not maybe on that level, because that's only one battle that I had to fight. And I feel like I won. My son is 9 years cancer free. If you looked at him today, you couldn't even tell. So I know that was a long story, but I haven't told it a lot. So I haven't mastered the art of public speaking on that story, because it's still a little tender. But that's one of the reasons why I like to share adversity, because it's like, if you can get through childhood cancer, you can probably get over not getting that job, or dropping out of college 4 times, or losing that marriage, or not becoming a millionaire in 12 months.
And my grandfather used to say the worst thing is what you're going through. So we think it's the worst thing in the world until we hear other things that are worse. And we think, wow, this is horrible. Like, I've had financial loss, but there's always ways to make more money. And I always say to my children, health is the most valuable thing that we have in this world. And like you said, you went to all the parenting classes, you did all the breastfeeding, you did all the things they say to have the best possible chance, and you still had this happen. And I'm curious if you ever decided to make peace with any outcome, or if you just visualize, like, I loved how you visualized him in the crib, sleeping peacefully with nothing on him. But did you get to a point where you were able to say, like, it is what it is, what's going to happen is going to happen? How did you do that?
You are so intuitive. I love it. I love it. I absolutely had that moment. And I feel like that was the point when the universe was like, oh, okay. So you do trust us. He's healed. Boom. I remember having that moment. And I think I might have asked somebody to bring me some wine into the hospital. Don't tell anybody, but I got to clear my mind. I remember having a conversation with myself and saying, or with the universe or Gus, whatever you want to call it, God, universe, source, and saying, being grateful. You gave me this child for 2 years. I've been the best mom that I knew how to be. I have given him everything I could possibly give him. I've done everything that I feel like you would have wanted me to. And if all I had was 2 years with this kid, it was a great 2 years. And if it's time for him to go back to where he came from, because he was a gift to me, I'm good. And the next day, I went and got my hair done. I went and got my nails done. And I went and put on some clothes and took a shower because I was a mess. And I said, if I don't feel good about myself, that energy is going to transfer to my kid. So let me feel good about myself and on the inside and get my energy together. Yeah, after I let go, that's when things started to turn around.
Wow. There's so much in what you just shared. And I feel like coming back to that realization that our children are a gift. They're not ours. It's a beautiful experience from God that we're granted, and we don't have control over their lives. I witness you trusting. And I'm also curious, like, how to let go, because when people are in the thick of it and they're there, is it just a moment of like, I choose to surrender, or is this just a getting to be so painful that there is no other choice? How do you let go?
That's hard for me to say, because I know that if I didn't have those teachings and if I didn't have those spiritual deposits, I don't know what I would have done. But it was easier for me because of the knowledge that I had. And that's the only way I knew how to do it. But I don't know what a person who this happens out of nowhere, you don't have any resources, you don't have anything to help guide you through it. That's something that I may have to do a little bit more research on, because I'm really not sure. I can't say that it's that easy.
Yeah. And I also think it's important to acknowledge that loss is loss. Whatever people are going through, it's personal, and there's all different forms of loss. And to them, it is the worst thing in the world. And it's acknowledging that. And, you know, because I know challenges I've been through, and I'm like, well, it's not as bad as what that person's gone through. But whatever it is that we go through, I believe that there are these experiences that our soul agrees to go through in order to learn these deep lessons, in order to really trust in higher power, and to know that we're not alone, and to know that we don't have control. There's very little that we have control over, and other than our thoughts. And you talked about that as well, about that being able to look at the thoughts and where your mind was going and visualizing. Can you explain what is visualization? Like, how can someone use visualization to get through a difficult time?
You know what? That is not my area of expertise. So I haven't really taught it much. But for me, it's just like when you were a kid and you would imagine that you were a teacher, or you would imagine that you were a doctor. It's really play. It's really going back into that childlike state and eliminating all distractions, and really just imagining being whatever it is that you want to be, with no limitations, not thinking about the bills that are due, not thinking about if your husband is cheating, not thinking about all these adult worldly things. It's really going to that childlike state and being in the moment, in the present, and in the now, and telling yourself that you are whatever it is that you want to be, or allowing yourself to see the things that aren't really in your existence, but seeing them as though they are. And that sounds so biblical. And seeing them as though they are what you want them to be. But that's a practice. That's not something that, if you've never done it before, you can just wake up and snap and do it. That's something I had to practice over many years, practicing how to manipulate my thoughts, and practicing how to insert a positive thought and take away a negative thought. So I think just going back to that childlike state of playing in the kitchen with no food, but we had a whole feast, of playing teacher when nobody had a degree, and we would play rock teacher on the porch, and you moved up a level if you chose the right rock in someone's hand. So really going back to it, allowing yourself to be free in that space with no restrictions, and just be that 5-year-old kid or that 3-year-old kid at pre-K, when you can go to these different stations and make a whole world out of whatever it is that you want to create in that moment.
And I love that you brought up the part of play, because when we try to visualize from a place of, I want this, I'm going to like effort it to happen through the power of my mind, it doesn't work. Because again, like you talk about the art of speaking, manifestation is also an art. The art of manifestation is relaxed, is play. And I believe that the divine will bring in opportunities for play if we're working too hard, if we're stressing too much. There will be a gift from the universe, like a new person to play with, a new relationship, a new friend, a new client, a new learning. There's something that will come in, I believe, to disrupt that mind that is overworking and over pushing, overexerting. I love that you brought up the play piece. I think is really important with people wanting to get through a difficult time, like to be playful. And even in painful times, we still get to be in joy. We still get to choose. Like you said, you went to get your hair done and you got your nails done and you beautified yourself and you felt good. And that was serving more than being in the room crying or stressing. And the energy shift that you chose to do was healing to your son as well. So I love that. I love that.
After we go through life's challenges, it can bring us to a place of wondering what's next for us and how we're meant to show up in the world now. We don't want our pain to have been in vain and often have a desire to help others through what we've just overcome ourselves. Maybe you want to write a book, speak on stage, or start a coaching business so that you can help others through their own journeys of greater self-discovery. If this sounds like you, I invite you to check out our retreat called The Retreat Where Purpose Meets Prosperity. We will be focusing on gaining greater clarity on our life's purpose and how our business can help to support that. We will start saying yes to those things that feel like a hell yes for us and learn to say no to those things that are no longer fit to who we are now and who we are becoming. To learn more, call or text Julie at 301-284-0789 or email her at julie@juliegetzinger.com.
So getting back to speaking, any tips for people who, other than starting Toastmasters, like what can you keep in mind when you are delivering a speech? Just a couple of tips for people wanting to perfect the art of speaking.
I'm going to start with the one that nobody likes to hear. Practice and rehearsal. I have a presentation on the 9th of August and I'm practicing, even though it's things that I've talked about, I've given this talk a couple dozen times, I'm going to practice it and I'm going to make sure that it's on time. For me, I love practicing because you can see your time. Timing is so big with public speakers because nobody wants you to give them too little. But when you go overboard, it's just like that. It's arrogant and it's not compassionate to the people giving you this platform or to the other speakers who actually time theirs and you're going into their time. So practice helps you with timing. Practice also helps you to be comfortable with your material on stage. You can know it front to back, even if you don't have to memorize it, but you're going to know this point, this point, this point, where to put this story, where to put this pause, where to put this laughter, where they may laugh and you don't want to step on the laugh, so you need to pause. It helps you to have a seamless speech. And it helps if anything happens, if a technical issue happens, if the lights go out, if a baby starts crying and you have to pause, you're not going to lose your train of thought because you've practiced this so many times that you know exactly where to pick up and where to leave off. And practice separates a public speaker from a professional speaker. Like we said earlier, anybody can get up and give a talk or a testimony or share their story. Anybody can do that. But to the person who rehearsed it and to the person who put the energy behind it and to the person who has crafted this beautiful speech, they're going to show up as a more polished speaker, a more confident speaker, a more professional speaker. So practice. The second one is get up there.
How do you practice? Do you practice like timing yourself on your phone or in front of a mirror? Like what's the best way to practice?
Well, everybody has their own way. Some people like to practice in the mirror with their phone as a timer. I often use my phone as a timer. Some people like to practice in front of a fake audience, teddy bears, pets, or family and friends. Some people like to practice in those safe spaces like Toastmasters. For me, I like to practice pacing. I like to stand up when I practice. And even if I'm giving a talk like this, I like to stand up and practice. And I like to figure out where I want to stand on the stage. And I like to repeat what I'm saying over and over and over. And I like to imagine the audience is out there, even though it's a lot of virtual speaking now, but I like to imagine that the audience is out there. And I often time myself with my phone, but I've been speaking for so long, I kind of got the hang of it. It feels funny. If they say I have 30 minutes, at about 27 minutes, I'll start to feel a little antsy on the inside, knowing that I have to cut it short. So I think there are multiple different, it's no the ways, that the way I do it is a way, but just rehearsing your lines like an actor or an actress, rehearsing your lines, timing yourself with some type of timing device, and if possible, getting feedback from family, friends, or people who you trust and care about.
Awesome. And do you recommend having one main speech and then altering that for different audiences or a couple different speaking programs?
I like to have one keynote that you can alter, because especially if you are in demand, you don't want to have to keep creating a different speech every time. That's just taken away from the impact that you can have with this one speech. The more you tweak it or the more you add or omit, I would say have one signature keynote with a common theme, like Still Standing, the speech I gave to win the Toastmasters World Championship. It's about resilience and adversity. I can give that at a corporate function. I can give that at a women's empowerment conference. I can give that at a high school commencement. I can just tweak it and change it to make small adjustments so that it's more relatable to the audience. But the overall theme and message is so universal that I strongly suggest having a signature keynote that you can just alter as necessary.
That's awesome. And do you recommend joining speakers bureaus for beginner speakers, or is that something once you're more advanced?
I don't think you necessarily have to, but I think that it's another way to get exposure. I just joined my first speakers bureau called Innovation Women. I just joined that this year, and I've been speaking for many years. I think that you should try it. Test it out, see if you like it. I don't think you should or shouldn't do it, but I think it's a way to definitely get more exposure and meet more people and potentially get more speaking engagements.
Awesome. And any last words of wisdom for people getting into speaking, tips that you would like to share just to leave with our audience?
Yes. Aside from practicing, look good up there. Look good up there. Be confident in what you wear. As you see, I'm wearing red. My brand colors are red and black. I try to wear red as often as possible, and it makes me feel good. As you can see, Julie's wearing yellow, but it's sunshine. It's happy. It makes you feel good. So be mindful of what you're wearing, because before you speak, they're going to look at how you show up physically. If you look dumpy and wrinkly and just not confident, they probably won't take you seriously. And it's going to take more of you to be a powerful, impactful speaker for them to really connect with you. So be mindful of how good you look, how that makes you feel good, right? We all know if you look good, you feel good. If you feel good, you'll get up there confident and speak, and then hopefully they'll pay you the big bucks. So don't just get up there to speak, actually show up as what you want to represent with your brand or with your talk or with your message.
Awesome. And where can our listeners find you if they'd like to learn more from you?
You can join my Facebook group I just started called Speakers United. That is our Facebook group. We meet every Thursday at 7 Central. We talk about all things public speaking. You can also find me on Instagram at Ramona J Smith, the number 1, Ramona J Smith 1. LinkedIn is Ramona J Smith. And what else am I on? You can email me. I speak at ramonajsmith.com.
Beautiful. And I will put all those links in the show notes below so everybody can follow you. Ramona, thank you so much for being here. I am so happy that we got to learn from you today and have your energy and your wisdom in our space. So thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Wish we could talk longer. Oh, I was loving it.
Me too. Me too. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did enjoy it, please consider liking it. And if you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, go ahead and do that now. If you know of anybody else who could benefit from watching this video, share it with them too. And thanks for being here. I hope to see you soon. Bye.